I have come to realize that ghosts are always attracted to a thing or place. And if it's a thing, it's usually something that they cherished when alive. And if it's a place, it's probably the place that they had their last breath. If you're joining me for the first time and you love the true, dark, and scary stories, you have just found the right channel. Welcome to the Dark Past, where I'll be telling you one or two stories every week. So please do sit back, relax, and enjoy today's story. Located in Wilder, Kentucky, an abandoned music hall sits off the banks of the Licking River. In 1978, country singer Bobby Mackey visits the property with a real estate agent in search of his lifelong dreams. After hitting success in the music scene, allowing him to leave his job at the railroad and pursue music full-time. He has been on the road tour for at least 12 years. He loves what he does, but he loves his wife even more, Janet, who is pregnant with their first child. Wanting to settle down and plan some road to start a family, he thinks this is the perfect opportunity. Bobby has always wanted to open a music hall, a nightclub suited to his particular style of country music. As he gazes into the ballroom and bar, he begins to visualize what he has been dreaming about all these years. So, after the tour, with a few moments of thought, he decides to purchase the property. Later that day, Bobby returned with Janet to show her the place that they were in the process of purchasing. From the very moment that she had laid eyes on the property, Janet had felt that there was something rather ominous about the place. There was a whole energy that felt off. When the doors were unlocked for the first time, looking around, she went into the kitchen while Bobby grabbed some items from the trunk. As she walked around looking at the random equipment, she suddenly heard a muffled voice calling out from the sink. The voice was of a gargled female voice. She tried to concentrate, listening contentedly, and couldn't make out what was being said. This was very unsettling for Janet. She began to yell for Bobby, but there was no response. She ran out of the kitchen into the ballroom, where she found Bobby walking in through the main doors. She immediately asked him who he was talking to which he simply replied, "No one. There is no one here, just you and me." Janet proceeded to tell him that she heard voices. However, Bobby disregarded his wife's concern, thinking it was just her hormones that were affecting her since she was pregnant. This is when she let him know once more that she didn't have a good feeling about this place. Shortly after this conversation took place, he signed the paperwork and obtained a banknote saying that he officially owned the property. Janet still didn't like the idea of having a property, but showed her support as a wife by helping as much as she could. Bobby was one day painting some walls while Janet was sweeping by the bar when a stranger walked into the front door. He calmly introduced himself as Carl Lawson. He was a handyman for the last owners and had offered to help since he was unfortunately out of work since the previous owners had closed it down due to the type of crowd it had attracted and the brutal murders that had taken place on the property, he had said. When Bobby listened to Carl, he immediately didn't think it possible for his place to be one that would attract violence. He thought that since the last owners had it as a rock and roll type of club, that is what attracted the kind of violence. His club would definitely attract a very different type of crowd. Bobby decided to hire Carl as a full-time caretaker and handyman for the club. He would then live on the property up in the attic. As the renovations became even busier, gearing towards the opening date, Janet and Carl found themselves working on projects together. Their friendship seemed to be more of that of a brother and sister would have. Janet had decided to ask Carl if he had ever experienced anything strange inside the club. Surprised, he told her that he believed there was so much more than meets the eye about this place. There is some kind of force that may be violent in here. The two of them then decided to look out for one another. Later, Janet decided to do dishes. That is when she heard the same familiar sound, the same muffled sound that came out from the sink. When she gazed down at the sink, she was absolutely horrified to see thick blood-like liquid starting to fill up the drain. She took a step backwards to yell for help. That is when she felt something or someone grabbed her from the back of her head and began to push her towards the sink. She began to brace herself against the sink as she began to scream for help. That very moment, Carl stepped into the kitchen and then she felt the pressure released from the back of her head. Janet fell backwards and she hysterically told Carl what had just happened to her. Something is trying to hurt her. When Carl looked at the sink, there was nothing there. Janet herself looked into the sink again, but there was nothing there. Then Carl continued to talk to her to calm her down. Janet looked for Bobby to tell him what had just happened to her. He once again did not believe her. He thought she was going crazy and even yelled at Carl, telling him not to fill her head with ghost stories. Bobby did not believe in ghosts at all, nor the paranormal. He was only interested in getting his bar up and running to make up for all the money that was invested. Within a week, a police officer named Larry Hornsby was patrolling as usual, which meant passing through the club. When he drove by the parking lot, he spotted a dark figure in the window with the door of the club open. He thought that someone had broken in. He quickly called for backup to investigate. When another officer arrived, they both consciously made their way inside, guns drawn, flashlights out. They scanned the bar for any burglars and found nothing, not even a sound. It was so quiet in there. Out of nowhere, music started to blast from behind the stage. Jazz music, sounds of people laughing and talking were heard. The officers made their announcement, heading towards the music, and as they drew back the curtains, suddenly the music stopped. The officers looked at each other out of confusion. Then suddenly the front door slammed shut. They ran towards the door and out of the club to pursue whoever was there, only to find no one once more. It was not the wind. There wasn't any wind that night. Officer Hornsby later admitted that he didn't report any of these findings out of fear of people thinking he had lost his mind and he didn't want to be a laughingstock. He only reported not finding anything on that fateful night. 2 days later, Officer Hornsby will find himself outside a nightclub once more, but this time for a different reason. A woman had lost control of her vehicle. It was fatal. When the body was removed from the vehicle, he then called it in, and out of nowhere, a woman tapped him on the shoulder and handed him a tablecloth. Then she walked back into the nightclub. When the scene was cleared, the officers, with several other officers, went to thank the strange woman for assistance. Then they realized that the doors were strangely locked. So they decided to come back in the morning with his partner to inform Bobby what had happened the night before. They mentioned that woman, assuming that she was a waitress. Bobby said he didn't have a waitress, let alone any staff apart from Carl and his wife, and he and his wife were sound asleep when this event took place. The officers thanked him and left confused. Later that same afternoon, Carl was changing light bulbs upstairs. Then he accidentally dropped the last one. He began going downstairs to get more, and on his way meets Janet, who asked what that sound was. Carl then told her what had happened, so she sends him off to go get more bulbs, and she decides to clean up the broken glass. When she turned to grab the dustpan, she felt as if she was shoved behind. She panicked because she was close to the stairs. Then suddenly she was pushed again, and this time tumbled down the stairs. At 5 months pregnant, Carl finds her and starts to scream for Bobby. Before he gets there, she tells Carl that something had pushed her. They got her into the car and rushed her to the hospital. Janet goes into premature labor. She gives birth to the girl, weighing only 1 pound. The next few weeks were filled with stress over the well-being of their newborn daughter surviving. Over the next few weeks, they were able to take their daughter home, and Bobby prepares for his grand opening of his club, which he named the Bobby McKee Music World. On opening day, he heard a customer talking about ghosts, and Bobby was almost put over the edge by hearing this. He confronted Carl, even threatened his job if he ever spoke to the customers again about ghosts. Bobby didn't want his customers scared to come to his place if they thought it was haunted. It was supposed to be known for their great country music only. Ghosts didn't exist to Bobby. One night, as Carl was done stacking the chairs on top of the table of the bar, turned off the lights, and proceeded upstairs to his place, he heard a strange noise behind him. The chairs began to shake. Carl, in so much disbelief, the chairs started to fly in different directions. Carl is so terrified and runs up to his apartment and barricades himself up for the night. He is in complete denial over what he had just witnessed. He tried to come to terms by dealing with his trauma by cleaning. He finds himself in the storage room where he finds a loose board on the floor. He pries it out to replace it and finds a pile of old clothes. Inside this clothes, he finds an old journal. He starts to read it. It's by a woman named Joanna. She was a dancer at the club during the 1930s. He reads the whole journal over the next several days to learn her story. She had fallen in love with a musician who her father did not like. Her father had told her that he would kill this man before she ever lets her marry him. One day, the man she loved was no longer around the club. He was missing, and she just found out that she was pregnant. She thought that her father had something to do with it. She planned and plotted, and eventually poisoning her father and then herself. The final entry reads that she would roam the hallway of the club waiting for her lover to return. This brings me to the end of the first half of the story. The end of the story is so twisted, I will urge you to stick around for the conclusion of the story. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to give it a like, share it, which encourages me to bring you more interesting stories like this from around the world. And I don't know what media you are watching this with, but you can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, YouTube. And please do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and turn on all notifications so you don't miss any of my weekly uploads. Thank you. See you next time, and bye for now.